I found my son's journal. His last entry was about killing me tonight. I didn't go looking for anything. That's what I keep telling myself. There wasn't some grand suspicion or gut feeling, no thunderclap of intuition dragging me toward his room. I was just cleaning, sheets, laundry, the usual things a father does when his son's gotten too comfortable walling himself off from the world. The door had been left cracked for once. No music, no flickering screens, just silence and that stale smell of sweat, worn socks, and teenage disinterest. I stripped the bed, lifted the mattress for the cover, and there it was, wedged tight between the springs and the plywood base. A plain black composition notebook. No label, no name. Just a small rip in the corner like it had been pulled out and pushed back too many times. I should have left it alone. I know that now. A teenager's journal is a sacred, angry place, a boiling container for every slight, every misunderstanding, every punch swallowed and scream buried. But I opened it anyway, not out of curiosity, out of habit, out of worry. The first few pages were typical. Frustration with teachers, boredom with classes, a few cryptic jabs about never being heard, and complaints about me, his father, the usual cold, mechanical criticisms kids toss around when they're cornered by rules and structure. My name appeared often. Not Dad, not even Father, just him. He said I couldn't go out. He doesn't listen. He acts like he cares. Each line bled resentment, but none of it scared me. I chalked it up to the usual noise of adolescence. Harmless. But then the entries took a sharp turn, a very deliberate shift. Words sharpened, thoughts congealed. He started describing things, the house layout, times I usually went to bed, what pills I took for my back, when I locked the doors, when I didn't. He even noted what I ate for dinner, how long it took me to finish. He started calling me the target. That word showed up for the first time on page 37, boxed in heavy ink, surrounded by angry spirals. The target sleeps by 11. The target forgets the side door on Tuesdays. My hands went cold. I flipped faster. By page 50, he wasn't venting. He was planning. He had drawn crude floor plans of our home, made diagrams, labeled windows, outlined routines. Each page became more focused. This wasn't idle writing. This wasn't fiction. The final entry was dated tonight. Bold black ink, the page almost torn from pressure. The words were burnt into my mind the moment I saw them. It ends after dinner. No more pretending. I'll finally be free. He won't wake up tomorrow. That sentence. It doesn't leave. Not even now. I sat on the edge of his bed, that notebook trembling in my grip, my knees locked, my mouth dry. I must have stared at the page for 10 minutes, reading it again and again, waiting for something to change, for a punchline, a scribble out, a smiley face, a damn emoji, anything to suggest it was a joke. Nothing came, only silence from the hallway, the clock ticking louder than my pulse. I heard him moving in the kitchen then, cabinet doors opening and closing. Silverware, glass. I heard him humming. Calm, content, almost mechanical. That's when something deep in me broke. Some paternal instinct twisted into something darker, more primal. I didn't go to him. I didn't hug him. I didn't ask him why. I didn't do anything they teach you to do in those glossy counseling books. I left, but not like someone escaping, not running. I packed a bag with shaking hands, grabbed my keys, slid the journal under my coat. I left a note on the counter. 2 lines, plain, controlled. Taking a walk. Be back later. Then I slipped out the front door, twisted the lock from the outside, and pulled it tight behind me. I didn't stop walking until the cold bit through my shoes. I crossed the street and ducked behind the old for sale sign across from our house. My car was still in the driveway, right where it belonged, making it look like I was still inside. The lights in the living room were on, the curtains drawn. I couldn't see much, but I didn't need to. I knew the layout better than anyone. I knew where he was likely standing. I imagined him reading my note, staring at it too long, knowing it didn't sound like me. I imagined his face, blank, not surprised, maybe disappointed. The phone in my hand felt like dead weight. I'd called no one. Who do you call when your own son might be plotting your death? The police? What do I say? I found a notebook, and it has bad things in it. They'd want proof. They'd think I was exaggerating or worse, unstable. And maybe I was. Maybe I am. But I couldn't go back in there. The street was quiet. A wind passed, nudging dead leaves across the pavement in restless patterns. The kind of night where everything feels like it's waiting. I stared at my house like a stranger. It was just 4 walls and a roof a few hours ago, filled with forgotten groceries and missed calls and half-clean dishes, but now it felt like a trap I'd lived in too long. I saw the glow of the kitchen light flicker. A shadow moved behind the curtain. Just a ripple, but it made my stomach lurch. How did we get here? It's not like I was ever cruel to him. I wasn't one of those dads, the screamers, the belt-wielders, the vanishers. I was there. I made dinner. I paid bills. I showed up to meetings and tried to understand the slang, the moods, the changes. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe I was trying too hard to be present when he needed distance. Or maybe he was broken in a way I never saw. It's possible, isn't it? That someone can share your roof for 17 years and still be an absolute stranger? I thought about the day his mother left, the silence after that, how he withdrew, piece by piece, how he stopped calling me dad, stopped laughing at old shows, stopped looking me in the eye. I told myself it was just a phase. That was the phrase I clung to. But maybe that phase calcified into something else, something angry, something patient. I didn't move from my spot for almost an hour, just watched, waited. Every passing car startled me. I imagined him in the house, walking from room to room confused, or not confused at all. Maybe he was ready. Maybe he'd already decided tonight was it, and the absence of my body was just a delay, not a change of plan. I thought about calling a friend, but who would believe me without seeing the journal? Even I didn't want to believe it, and I had it in my coat. Every instinct screamed that it was real. The words weren't fantasy. They were methodical, too consistent, too pointed. But a small part of me still hoped I was wrong. That I'd find him tomorrow morning asleep on the couch, drool on his cheek, game controller in hand, journal forgotten like so many angsty things before it. But that hope was dying. Quickly. My phone buzzed once, a text. From him. "Where are you?" Just those 3 words. No question mark. No typo. Like a statement wrapped in curiosity. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't respond. Couldn't. Not yet. A car passed behind me. Headlights swept across the street, catching the windows of my house. For a split second, I saw his silhouette standing in the hallway. Still, upright, just watching. No movement, no shift. Like he knew exactly where to look. Like he could see me. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I knew this wasn't an overreaction. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was real. The journal wasn't fiction. I didn't respond to the message. It was still sitting there on my phone screen, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Where are you?" No punctuation, no name attached. Just a blunt question, stripped of feeling, like he was checking inventory rather than asking his father's whereabouts. I slid the device into my jacket pocket without answering, and kept my eyes on the house, watching for movement, for light, for any flicker of understanding in the windows that still glowed too steadily. The minutes dragged. I shifted behind the for sale sign again, kneeling on the sidewalk behind the bushy hedge that offered a thin curtain of concealment. Cold dampness seeped into my jeans from the pavement, and I could feel the chill getting under my skin. But I didn't move. I couldn't afford to. The street was still empty. The few scattered porch lights were distant and blurred, not close enough for help, not comforting enough to approach. I kept watching the windows like they were holding their breath. Then one of them went dark. The hallway light, gone in a blink. My son, James, had turned it off. Whether it was to save power or to hide his movements, I didn't know. That uncertainty clamped down around my chest like a steel band. I couldn't pretend this was just teenage lashing anymore. This was deliberate, careful. I didn't even know who he was anymore. James had always been quiet. He never caused scenes, never yelled. When his mother left, he didn't cry. He just stopped smiling. I remember thinking maybe he was trying to be strong, but now I'm not sure if he just didn't care. Or maybe something deeper fractured and never healed. I used to hear him laughing with friends through his door, back when he still had them. Then they stopped coming around. Eventually, it was just him, alone in his room, headphones on, door closed. I never knew what he was doing in there. I didn't want to pry. But now I wish I had. The next text came 10 minutes later. "Did you see the note?" I stared at those words like they were bait. I didn't write any note. He was talking about the one I left for him. That meant he'd read it, knew I wasn't in the house. But the tone was off, not alarmed, not curious. It felt like he was trying to confirm something, as if he wanted to be sure I wasn't interfering. I didn't respond to that one either. Instead, I looked down the street. Nothing. Just a few parked cars. No people, no traffic. My house sat there like a prop in a play. Too still, too composed. I was beginning to feel like I'd stepped out of reality into some warped version of it. Suddenly, a sound behind me. Soft footsteps. I whipped around, heart surging into my throat, only to see a dog walker passing by, earbuds in, head down, oblivious. I turned back toward my house and found the curtains had shifted. Someone had moved them. They were open just a crack now, a sliver of interior visible from my angle. I leaned forward slowly, careful not to draw attention. Through that narrow gap, I could see the edge of the staircase, dimly lit by a lamp from the dining room. No movement, but something about that opening made my skin crawl. It felt intentional, like a trapdoor being tested. I opened my phone again. No new messages. My fingers hovered over the screen. I thought about calling 911, but I couldn't make myself press the numbers. What would I even say? My son might be planning something. I'd already locked myself out of the house. If they found nothing, if they brushed it off as paranoia, then what? They'd leave. I'd be stuck, exposed, worse off than before. So instead, I made a decision. I needed to be sure. I crossed the street, not straight across, but looping around from the side to avoid standing directly in front of the windows. I ducked behind the neighbor's fence, followed the edge of the hedges until I reached the back gate of our yard. It was unlocked, as always. I eased it open and stepped inside, moving slowly, every sound amplified by the quiet around me. The backyard looked the same. Grill covered, tools still leaning against the shed. The swing creaked slightly in the breeze, but the side door to the garage was wide open. I hadn't left it that way. Inside the garage, tools lined the wall in neat rows, hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches. James had helped me organize them last year. He knew every one of them. I stepped inside and kept low, my shoes making no sound on the concrete. The garage door to the house was closed, but not latched. I nudged it open with the tip of my shoe and listened. No voices, no footsteps, no TV. I slipped into the laundry room, heart hammering, ears straining for the faintest hint of movement. The air was still. The light overhead flickered once, and then steadied. I moved through the kitchen with measured steps, eyes scanning every corner. A plate sat in the sink, half-eaten pasta crusted dry on the edge, a glass beside it. My note was gone from the counter. I went straight to his room. The door was wide open. The bed was made, neatly, corners tucked, blankets smoothed. That was the first thing that threw me off. James never made his bed. His desk was cleared, chair pushed in, laptop closed. I crossed the room and checked under the mattress again. Nothing. No second notebook. No papers. Closet open. Empty hangers. A few shirts still folded in the drawer, but not many. Then I noticed the backpack in the corner, zipped tight, bulging. I opened it. Inside were 3 changes of clothes, a flashlight, a knife, a burner phone still in plastic wrap, and a roll of cash held together with a rubber band. My heart almost stopped again. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't fantasy. He wasn't just planning something. He was ready to leave afterward. I backed out of the room and closed the door without a sound. Down the hall, his bedroom light clicked on. He was in the house. I ducked into the hallway bathroom and locked the door behind me, turning off the light. I pressed my back against the wall and waited. My ears picked up every creak of the floorboards, every subtle shift of pressure in the air. His footsteps moved toward his room, slow and steady. The door opened. Silence. Then a voice, low, controlled. "I know you're here." I didn't move. My chest barely rose with each breath. I could hear the floor groan as he stepped further into the hall. "I saw the garage door. You didn't cover your tracks." My fingers tightened around the phone. I had to make a choice. Call someone or confront him. Then he knocked on the bathroom door. 3 slow knocks. "You read it, didn't you?" No anger, no fear, just calm. I said nothing. He waited. After a long pause, I heard him walk away. Not rushed, not retreating, just walking. A door opened somewhere in the house. Maybe the kitchen, maybe the basement. I came out of the bathroom a minute later, phone light guiding me. The hallway was empty. I moved fast, silent, and made it to the front door. I unlocked it and stepped out into the night again, leaving it wide open behind me. I ran until I couldn't breathe. Once I was a block away, I stopped and looked back. The house stood there, lights flickering behind the glass, door ajar. No sign of him, no movement. Then my phone vibrated again. Next time, lock the back gate. There was no way he could have seen me do that. No cameras, no windows angled toward it. He must have been outside earlier, watching me from somewhere else. Or worse, he never left the yard. He let me come in. That's when I realized something I hadn't considered. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a breakdown. This was a game. And he'd been playing it longer than I knew. I stood in the alley behind the grocery store 3 blocks from my house, hunched against the cold wind, trying to steady my hands. My phone was burning in my pocket from the message he sent. Next time, lock the back gate. My mind kept circling that line. The words weren't threatening, not directly. They were confident. A reminder. Like he already knew I was always a step behind. I needed answers, not guesses. No more pacing or hiding or hoping I'd misunderstood. I couldn't go to the police with a half-told story and a vague feeling. I had the journal, I had the backpack, but none of that would prove intent unless something actually happened. And if I waited for that, I might not survive the night. I decided to end it. I stopped thinking like a parent and started thinking like someone who had to survive. I knew James. I'd raised him. Every dinner we shared, every silent car ride, every birthday where he didn't ask for anything. I had paid attention, even when he tried to push me out. I knew how he thought, and I realized something I hadn't before. He wasn't waiting for me to fall into a trap. He was luring me into one of his own. I called a locksmith. 20 minutes. They arrived, no questions. Just picked the front door open like it was nothing. I paid in cash and told them I'd locked myself out after grabbing the mail barefoot. They nodded, left, and I slipped back into the house through the same door he'd seen me flee from earlier. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't make a sound. I went straight to the basement. James never went down there unless I made him help me fix something. That space was filled with shelves of old boxes, power tools, the water heater, and a furnace that clicked when the temperature dropped. I hid behind the largest stack of storage bins near the far wall, crouched down, phone in hand, and waited. 15 minutes passed, then 30. I heard the creak of the hallway above. He was back in the house. The front door closed. His steps were light, deliberate. He wasn't stomping or calling out. He was hunting, room by room. I could picture him sweeping the living room, checking the kitchen, pausing by the bathroom. His room would have shown no signs of return. He'd know I'd been there. He'd check the backpack. He'd see what I saw. Then he'd come looking again. I kept the phone on silent and used the camera app in selfie mode, angling it toward the doorway of the basement from my hiding spot. A makeshift mirror, my only view. It took him 7 minutes to come down. The door opened slow, then the stairs creaked under his weight. I counted every step. 11 total. He took them all. I watched his shape appear in the screen. Slender, calm, hoodie up, hands empty. He said nothing. He walked to the middle of the floor and stopped. I know you're down here. I didn't move. Neither did he. I figured you'd come back. You're predictable. His voice wasn't mocking. It was quiet. Flat. Like he wasn't speaking to his father anymore. Just another piece of the puzzle he needed to finish. I held my breath, heart pounding, but my mind locked in. Focused. Alert. You shouldn't have read it, he said. Then, slowly, he pulled something from his hoodie. It was a knife. From our kitchen. 8-inch blade. Clean. The steel caught a sliver of light as he turned slightly. He waited a few seconds, maybe expecting me to run. I didn't. He moved again, walking closer to the opposite wall, searching behind boxes, checking corners, quiet, precise. The way he moved made it clear this wasn't a panicked teenager. This was someone who had thought through every angle. That's when I moved. I didn't try to wrestle him. I didn't yell or call out his name. I just stepped out from behind the bins, went around him in the shadows, and grabbed the fire extinguisher from the wall. It was old, heavy, mostly unused. I raised it over my shoulder and brought it down with everything I had. The sound was sharp. He didn't cry out. He went down instantly, body collapsing like the string had been cut. The knife clattered to the floor, spinning once before stopping near the drain. I dropped the extinguisher. My knees gave out and I hit the concrete hard, panting, arms trembling from the swing. He was still breathing, not moving, but breathing. I could see it, slow and shallow. Blood started pooling near his ear, but not fast. I called 911. I told them everything. The journal, the backpack, the knife. I didn't hold back. I told them I feared for my life and defended myself. I gave them my name, our address, and said I was unarmed. The dispatcher asked if my son was alive. I said yes. They arrived in 8 minutes. Flashing lights, sirens off. They found him unconscious. The officers cuffed him anyway. Paramedics checked his pulse, stabilized him, and carried him out on a stretcher. I watched through the doorway, hands raised, knees still on the floor. They didn't question much at first. One officer stayed behind with me while another took my statement in the kitchen. I gave them the journal, the contents of the backpack, and explained every moment from the night. They took it seriously. James was taken into custody after the hospital cleared him. The detective assigned to the case reviewed the notebook personally. When she came back to speak with me, she said something I hadn't prepared for. This wasn't just one night of planning. She explained that the journal dated back nearly 6 months. Each entry was methodical, obsessive. Every change in my routine was tracked. Every conversation was broken down. The final page, the one I found, wasn't even the last. There were more taped inside the back cover. Contingency plans, alternate scenarios. He had backup methods. And then she asked the hardest question. Did anything ever happen between you two that might have pushed this? I told her the truth. His mother had walked out years ago. I raised him alone. No abuse, no violence. We had our distance, but never hatred. At least I hadn't felt any from my side. But she nodded like she'd heard it before. Sometimes the resentment doesn't need a reason. Sometimes it builds in silence, nurtured by 1,000 minor disappointments until it becomes something else, something that feeds on routine, on predictability, on weakness. James was later diagnosed with a personality disorder. They said it wasn't rare, but his level of detachment and manipulation suggested something deeper. He never asked to see me, never spoke during the hearings. When the judge read the sentence, he didn't blink. 10 years in a psychiatric facility, minimum. After that, long-term evaluation. They didn't know if he'd ever be released. I didn't move houses. I didn't sell anything. I kept the same job, same schedule, same everything. Not because I was trying to pretend, because I needed something to stay steady. Every now and then I still check the locks twice before bed. I still glance at the curtains to see if they've moved. But the fear is different now. It isn't wild and untethered. It's controlled, clean. Like the edge of the blade he brought into the basement. I kept the journal. They let me. It's in a locked box in my closet, sealed in plastic, unread since that night. I don't need to revisit it. I remember every word. He won't wake up tomorrow. But I did, and I still do.